Okay, Hannah, I'm going to take you through some features of a spreadsheet, and I'm going to ask you to do some exercises at the end of this. So I'm going to go back to real basics with this so that you can actually take in everything, hopefully, that I'm talking about. So this is a spreadsheet, and everything I'm going to relate to here you could apply to any spreadsheet, so don't worry if this one doesn't quite look like the one that you've got. So to start off with, the spreadsheet is essentially a grid, and you can see that the grid comprises of columns. I'm highlighting a few columns here, and rows, so each of these are rows. This particular spreadsheet, if I scroll the right the way across, you'll notice the columns go all the way from A right up to Z, and when you go down, the rows go down to 1,000. Many spreadsheets that I've used have got a lot more columns and a lot more rows, but essentially that's something you could find out on the spreadsheet that you're using. Now, one of the first concepts that I want to bring your attention to is the moment I'm clicking in different cells. Each square on the spreadsheet is called a cell, and so that we know where we are talking about, each cell has got what's known as a cell reference, and in terms of the cell we always look at the column first, followed by the row. So this particular cell that I've clicked in now has got the cell reference B3, and here in the corner you can see it says B3. So if I click anywhere within the spreadsheet, I've now clicked on cell G14, that cell reference is reflected here. This spreadsheet has got a number of features built into it that you might recognize some of these icons and you might not, but perhaps it's essential just to say that these are ways that you can make your spreadsheet look a little bit different. So you can alter the text, things like the font, and you can put grid onto the grid. You can draw lines around so the lines appear around boxes to make it look pretty. You can align the text, and you can also bring in formulas. And over here, this particular one, you can see this particular sum symbol, which is the capital sigma letter. That's quite useful for adding columns up. So along here, a lot of this you can think of as ways of making the spreadsheet look better, but there are other things that we can do with it. Down at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you'll notice it says here January and February. I've renamed these particular tabs. So this particular tab started off with the words untitled on. I'll just add another one to show you what I mean. If I add another tab, I'm actually adding another sheet there, and although it's might not be obvious to you, so I'll just put a number in here, some text. Notice that when I move, this is actually a different sheet. So you can see if I can click over here, I've got January sheet, something that's called sheet 3, and something that's called February. If I double click on here, I can alter this to whatever I want it to say. Right, I'm going back to this particular sheet to start off with. I'll rename this to sheet 1, this one to sheet 2, and this one to sheet 3. So on sheet 1, what I'm going to do now is to show you how I can add some numbers together. One of the things that I think is really important is to, whenever you set up a spreadsheet, to start off with the numbers that you put in. Use numbers that you could add up in your own head. So let's start with numbers like 5s and 10s, which are quite easy to work with. So here I'm going to start off with by typing two numbers there. There's a 5, I'm pressing enter to put in the second one, and there's another number there. So I put two numbers in. If I wanted to add those two numbers up, you can clearly add those two numbers up, and you know 5 plus 5 is 10. If I want to get the spreadsheet to add those numbers up, I would do it by putting in a formula. So if I want the answer to go there in cell A3, I click in that cell, I hit equals, and you can see the formula is starting to build here, the formula bar, and then I want to type in this cell reference, which is A1, so type in A1, and I want to add the next number, so I put plus, and I want to then type in the next cell reference, which is A2. So you can see that it's added those two numbers up for me. First thing you notice as well that when I pressed enter, that formula appears to have disappeared. All we've got now is written is 10. If I click in that box, I can see that there is a formula there, whereas the others two cells, A1 and A2, have simply got numbers in them. But having put that formula in, this spreadsheet becomes quite powerful, because when I change the number, if I change this number to a 10, you now know that 10 plus 5 is 15. It's not showing as 15 yet until I press enter, and now you can see that figure has altered. Let's do some other things with this. If I want to take one number away from another, I can put a 10 in there and a 5 in there. This time I'll build the formula. Again, I start off with equals, and I want to take the 5 away from the 10, so I type in that cell reference, which is C1. So C1 minus C2, and when I press enter, you can see now it's worked it out. Again, the formula has disappeared, so I've got 10 minus 5 is 5. And just to show that it's working, if I take away 5, the answer is 0, and you can see it's working there. Next thing, two changes to what you would normally use in maths. If you were multiplying things in maths, you'd use the times symbol. On a spreadsheet, you use an asterisk instead. So if I put in 10 and 10, and I want to multiply those two numbers together, again I start off with equals. I type, so this time the cell reference is cell E1, so it's E1, and the symbol I use to multiply is the asterisk, and I type in the next cell reference, which is E2, and you can see it's multiplied. 10 by 10 is 100. Again, just to prove that it's working, 5 times 10 is 50, so we've got the spreadsheet working. Okay, what I'm going to do now is divide. The final thing I'm going to do is divide one number by another. So I'm going to put 10 in here and 2 underneath here. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that's the answer I'm expecting to get here. If I hit the equals symbol to start building the formula, I'm going to do cell G1, and to use the divide symbol I use is the /, so it's G1 divided by G2, and I press enter, and we've got there 10 divided by 2. So again, I like to check that it's working. If I type in 8 divided by 2, the answer is 4. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to ask you to complete the exercises that I sent on the first worksheet. If you could complete those and send them back to me, then we'll take it from there. I know it's very basic, but it's a good way of starting.